Let's continue with the Sutta 5.2. Then a great multitude would gather and assemble around him, and they would send up prayers, recite holy praises, circumambulate him with clasped hands in lotus gesture, saying, with the body's breakup after death, may this person be reborn in a good destination, in a heavenly world. Alright, so they're doing prayers. So the Buddha said, okay, these people get together and they start praying. They say, oh, may this person go to heaven, right? So here is another example where the Buddha has a strong word against prayer. It doesn't work. If you say, may this person go to heaven, it doesn't work. What do you think, headman? Because of the great multitude sending up prayers, because of their reciting holy praises, because of their circumambulating him with clasped hands in lotus gesture, would that person with the body's breaking up after death be reborn in a good destination, in a heavenly world? Not at all, Bhante. Right? So notice here, the Buddha didn't say, no, it is Asi Bandhaka Putta who says, no. So you have intelligent man here who is able to know right from wrong. And this is very important in the Buddhist discourses, in the Buddha's teachings. You find his audience would be kind of know that it is an open forum, and they have this intelligence to answer correctly. And that is taken as a worthwhile dialogue. And this is standard in all the dialogues in the Buddha's time. Now this brings us to the present time where you find religion has reached some of the lowest levels of humanity. I mean, let's say an evangelist approaches you and say, what do you think of Christ? And then if you're wise, you say, you just don't say anything. I got scolded once by this evangelist who told me I was crazy because I didn't want to talk, say anything. I just smiled, and I was happy. But in the younger days, we like to argue. So you find that no matter what you say, this other person won't listen anyway. It's all closed up. So the point is, there is no ethical dialogue here. There's no openness here. This person comes with already a fixed agenda and he wants to bulldoze you. Either way, he is trained to answer you. So once you have, it's not dialogue anymore. So you see here a very different situation where there's an open forum. You are free to answer as you feel. Of course, there are cases where a person disagrees with the Buddha. The Buddha will say, okay, let's examine this. Why do you disagree? And it went on like this long sutta until in the end the person says, okay, I see. All right. So here, of course, Asi Bandhaka Putta says, no, because this person who has died is a bad person. So what's the message of this little story here, this first episode? If a person habitually does something bad and he dies, even if someone were to pray for him, he's not going to go to heaven. So we are responsible for our own actions, in other words. Imagine if we have another scenario where, let's say, the text, the scripture says, oh, it's okay, even if this is a bad guy and he dies, and someone were to pray and mention the name of a certain Buddha or a certain God, and this man is going to go to heaven. You have a serious moral problem there. So you can do anything you like. Even bad stuff, they say, I'm not worried because when I die, somebody will pray for me, I'll go to heaven. So you have some issues there. However, we do have an interesting case where this public executioner did go to heaven. You know, traditionally, such people do not go to heaven. In fact, he led a life of killing. He even killed his own colleagues. He was such a treacherous man. But then he had a great, wonderful chance of meeting Sariputta. And Sariputta explained to him the nature, Buddha's teaching and so on, and he managed to somehow change. And during the last part of his life, he was so spiritually changed that although he lived as a public executioner in the early part of his life, when he died, he was reborn in a happy state because his mind was cleared of badness. it's just like the most famous case, of course, is Angulimala. Although he was a serial killer, he could, by his own vision, if you like, he could see in himself the goodness, and because of that, he came out of the terrible state that he had fallen into because of his foolish teacher. So, the Asibandaka Buddha says, no, this man will not go to heaven. Then the Buddha continues using a parable this time. You might say this parable is to reinforce the teaching that Asibandaka Buddha has understood, and also to help us understand in our own time. 6.1. Suppose, headman, a person were to throw a huge boulder into a deep lake. Then a great multitude would gather and assemble around it, and they would send up prayers, recite holy praises, circumambulated with clasped hands in lotus gesture, saying, "Rise up, good boulder, float up, good boulder, float up onto dry land, good boulder." What do you think, headman? Because of the great multitude sending up prayers, because of their reciting holy praises, because of their circumambulating him with clasped hands in lotus gesture, would that great boulder rise up, float up onto dry ground? Not at all. Okay. Asibandaka Buddha replies. Then the Buddha repeats the parikope on the 10 unwholesome causes of karma. So even so, this person who has broken these 10 precepts, even though all these people get together, do special prayers, he won't go to heaven. You know, even as you read this, if you really let your mind be open, you find, what's the point of having all these elaborate death rituals then? The irony of modern death rituals is, I don't think anybody really seriously thinks a dead person will go anywhere. I mean, the religion in Singapore predominantly materialism. I call it the M1 philosophy. This is your only life, live it. So, what is this materialism philosophy? If we do have a soul, the body and the soul are the same thing. So when the body dies, the soul perishes with it. In that case, we have only one life, live it, and make the most of it, and do whatever you like, don't get caught, and that's it, you have lived life, why bother about anything else? So if someone dies, it's just the four elements, if you talk in terms of Buddhist philosophy, so nothing happens. This person not going anywhere, right? So that's one idea. But of course, the Buddhist last strikes is meaningful, or should be meaningful. We are kind of, we know this man's consciousness, or this person's consciousness is still there probably, if not reborn. If the consciousness is still floating around, still uncertain, not sure whether to go on or to still get caught in the past karma of, say, a certain favorite place he likes. It's just like we are going to live, departing can be so difficult. So we kind of carry on. So we do loving kindness, and if we do any chants, the chants are to help create this wonderful peacefulness. And all this chanting is empowered with loving kindness. Chanting without loving kindness, no matter how good or beautiful, won't work. It's just sound, unhelpful sound anyway. It is with the loving kindness, even without sounds. That's the loving kindness that helps this dying person to move on. If there's no love, there's no dharma. Simple as that. It's nothing new. You find the Metta Sutta, the so many suttas which are very metta, it talks about such things. It's because we don't search the suttas, we don't study them carefully, we don't hear them. Because in our time, we have the Dhamma of fundraising. So whatever is taught, usually suttas which talk about wealth, which talk about dana, and then we start with that. All that we hear are Metta Sutta, Ratana Sutta, Mangala Sutta, and that's all. We don't hear about the Brahmacakka Sutta, we don't hear about Asibadaka Buddha Sutta. So this is where we are, in a sense, we are going back to the Buddha. We want the real thing, so to speak. And this is our chance to study the suttas. And Asibadaka Buddha had a wonderful chance because the Buddha has come to him and tells him, okay, what do you think? This man is a bad guy. Do you think he really can go to heaven? If all these people get together and do the most fantastic prayer, he still won't go there. Just imagine you throw this rock into the water and tell the rock, rise up, you know. This rock will never rise up. Of course, the Buddha did not bring in any magical powers here. You know? Someone might say, oh, you know, you got this guy who has magic, you know. And that's not the point anyway. This reminds us of another important sutta, Tevijja Sutta, where the Buddha talks about these brahmins. The Tevijja means those of three knowledges. These are the brahmins. He says these brahmins claim to be spokesmen of God. They say they are the only path and the way to Brahma, to God. But these people, they don't live like Brahma. They have wives. Brahma, this high God doesn't have a wife. They have money, property. The high God doesn't have money, property. These Brahmins enjoy sensual pleasures and frivolousness, materialism. This high God doesn't. So how can they speak for this high God? And most of all, none of these Brahmins have ever seen this God. And they claim to be praying for this God. Then the Buddha says, try this. You know, you look at the sun and the moon and pray, oh sun, moon, please come. Do you think the sun and the moon will come? And if that can't happen, why do you pretend that you can invoke or you can open this path to heaven when you yourself have not been there? So it's a very powerful statement. Someone who dares to speak up. This was an actual period where many of these prophetic figures, so to speak, you know, they're willing and able to speak against the mainstream church, if you like, church with a small c, this established power center of organized religion, if you like. In other words, from this organized, centralized religion, this actually period was a time when you got all these great teachers, you know, like Socrates, Jesus Christ, Confucius, of course the Buddha, Zoroaster, and so on. They live within a range of a few thousand years of each other. And they were willing to speak up and say, you can do it yourself. You can be spiritual yourself without the need of any priest, without the need of any intermediary. You can, by your own effort, attain awakening, liberation, whatever you have. So, this is the negative aspect, this person who's immoral. Okay, this is the first part. And the second part, the ending part, the Buddha says, okay, here you have this good person, right? Before that, there's a line at the top, 6.7. It says this bad guy, with the breaking up the body after death, he would still be reborn in a suffering world, in the hells, suffering states. The word hells means suffering states. Now you have this positive, very good person, the moral person. Now what do you think, headman? Here the person refrains from destroying life, refrains from taking the not given, refrains from sexual misconduct, keeps the first three precepts, refrains from false speech, refrains from divisive speech, refrains from harsh speech, refrains from idle chatter. He is not covetous, he has a heart free of ill will and holds right view. So this person dies. Then a great multitude would gather and assemble around him, and they would send up prayers, recite holy praises, accumulate him with clasped hands, lotus gesture, saying, with the bodies breaking up after death, may this person be reborn in the plane of misery and evil destination or lower realm in hell. Okay, here this person dies. This good person dies, and some people don't like him, right? And the person come together and say, may you go to a suffering state, cursing him and so on. So the Buddha said, do you think all these prayers will bring this man to hell? And of course, Asibadaka Buddha said, no, not at all. So here you see these two very interesting, contrasting ideas. A big group praying this bad person to go to heaven. It doesn't work. Here you have this big group of people praying that this good person will go to hell. It doesn't work. And here the Buddha uses a very interesting parable called the parable of the pot of oil. Suppose a man were to sink a pot of ghee or a pot of oil into a deep lake and then break it. So you've got to imagine this. Okay? These parables are meant to be visual. So there's this pot of oil, it goes into the water and then you break it underwater. And you know oil floats up. There its shards or fragments would sink downwards, its ghee or its oil would rise upwards. Here the parable is very clear what they represent, right? The shard, the sharp, hard, heavy parts represents badness, bad karma, if you like, it sinks down. Whereas the oil represents goodness, it floats up. Okay? So, what do you think, Brahmin? 8.3. Right? Because of the great multitude sending up prayers, because of their reciting holy praises, because of their circumambulating it with glass hands in lotus gesture, would it go down or sink down or go downwards? Not at all. So in other words, this person will not go to a suffering state anyway. So why? Because this person has lived a moral life, a good life, bodily, mentally. So since he is by nature good, no one can make evil of him. No one can bring him to a suffering state. So here again, the Buddha doesn't say, you have to believe in me, this person is following me. He's just saying this person is good, it's by nature good. Right? So he's talking about this person in himself. Right? So this person will be reborn in the heavenly world. So here then, of course, Asibhadaka Buddha is quite happy. Section 9, when this was said, Asibhadaka Buddha, the head man, said this to the Blessed One, excellent Bhante, just as if, Bhante, one were to place upright what had been overturned, or were to reveal what was hidden, or were to show the way to one who was lost, or were to hold up a lamp in the dark so that those with eyes could see forms. In the same way, Bhante, in numerous ways, the Dharma has been declared by the Blessed One. I, Bhante, go to the Blessed One for refuge, to the Dharma and to the community of monks. May the Blessed One remember me as a layman who has gone to him for refuge from this day forth for life. So that ends there. Okay? Any questions?
Just going by this sutta, there is this feeling that the Buddha is fairly anti-ritual or anti-ritualistic. Then I think about the way religion evolves, even Buddhism today, it has become very ritualistic. I mean, the person is about to die, whether he's a good man or not, I don't know, but you call the monks in to chant because there's this idea that his chances are better, in last thought moments kind of thing. I don't know, what would the Buddha say about that?
Oh, it's clear. The Buddha has spoken about that. You can see in the Sutta.
So we have, it seems to me that we have, although the Buddha is against ritual, we have
two contradicting situations. Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely, that's right. There are many ways of explaining that. First of all, let us examine this question, was the Buddha against rituals? I think the answer is no, actually. You've got to take the sutta for what it is. What the Buddha is saying here is no ritual would be able to help a bad person from going to heaven. No ritual, even the best, can change the future destiny of a good person. He will never go to a suffering state. Right? So this is a general teaching. Now there are cases where someone who is good passes away and is reborn in a suffering state. In fact, the next sutta talks about that. And then what happens? So there are certain situations, the last stop moment, for example. So in other words, the Buddha does give certain other variations. Here he's giving one scenario, a general rule. The general rule is that if you are a good guy and you're bound for heavenly rebirth, no one can stop that. No ritual can stop that. Ritual is useless. Okay, that's the context. I don't think we can, from this sutta alone anyway, to say that the Buddha definitely was against all rituals. Because if you look at the Vinaya, on the other hand, the monastic system is full of rituals, legalistic rituals. And those are not Dhamma rituals, they are Vinaya rituals. Because in a sense, those are the rituals in which the modern parliament is based. You got to speak in turn, you got to use parliamentary language, things like that, you see. And the four right speeches is part of the Buddhist ritualistic, monastic ritualistic life.
Well, my problem, apart from ritual, my problem seems to be that the practice of this ritual then seems to imply to me as an observer less confidence either in your practice of sila or the operation of the law of karma.
Definitely, I totally agree with that. In fact, if you, like I said, it is a really a big question that I can take a few talks to answer that. You see, we live in a multicultural society. I mean, if someone dies, so people from different religions have to come, and first the family has to decide, what kind of ritual you're going to have, So that's one. Assuming that it is a kind of a uniform family, let's say it's a Buddhist family, again, Buddhists just in name, they don't study suttas, they go to the temple again, they will make rituals. It's because they do not know the suttas, they are purely nominal Buddhists or even ethnic Buddhists, because the monks are the ones, in one aspect of the monks themselves, the ethnic Buddhists, the monks actually teach rituals. They are priests today because they need the support of the public. So in other words, we have an economic situation, not like the Buddha's time. Yeah, there are changes, definitely. So this is where, in Malaysia, I wrote a small book, I call it the Churching of Buddhism. Because the Buddhists have to, they have their groups, they have their leaders, they have their rituals, they have their areas, and so on. Basically, they run the style of church. So yes, I would say they have kind of evolved their own kind of Buddhism. Yeah. So you have Buddhism, the small b, Buddha's teaching, and you have Buddhisms with the big B in plural, in the later developments. Yeah. Any other questions? So I think the answer begins in this inner peace in us. If we do not have the inner peace, we can never withstand the challenges religion throws us. Because the greatest deceit and pain are found in religion itself. The people who are supposed to change others. If they themselves are not changed, how can they change others? In this sense, the saying that it is the shadow is darkest where the light is brightest is very true. So that is why self-reliance is so meaningful here. You've got to start at home. Spirituality, like charity, starts at home because home is inside you. And this is where, with my Christian friends, I often hear they say, I don't hear them say, the kingdom of heaven is within you. I think that's a very Buddhistic saying. You've got to begin inside you. And if you can do that, you are at peace with yourself. People can sense that, and they say, how do you do it? And that's how the early monks did. They just went around with their wonderful peacefulness, and people just get drawn to it. They say, I want to be peaceful like you. They didn't listen to any fiery sermon or any kind of miracles. Those are later stories. They were just enthralled with this wonderful peace. And I think we should be similarly enthralled also by the peacefulness of Dharma while it's still available. Okay? All right. On that note, we will close here. Let us spend a quiet moment to reflect on the beauty of this time we're spending together, looking deep into the Dharma. It's not always easy to do so, but here we have the suttas in our presence. So we should take every chance to really look into it what it has to tell us personally. The wonderful teachings telling us how we can understand and free our minds so that we are totally at peace with ourselves and whatever we do becomes meaningful. And the message for us is that in failure and suffering lies the answer to our liberation here and now. It is not that we should succeed in what we aim for, but to understand why we fail in attaining what we want. It is in the wanting that failure lies. So once you understand that, then you see a much bigger understanding, wisdom, a peace within ourselves, surrounding us. And with that we are able to share with others too, that wonderful peace. With such thoughts of good mental karma, with the power of such good mental karma, may we attain mental focus, mental peace, even here and now in our meditations, in our reflections. And by the power of all this good karma, by our own faith in the three jewels, and other good actions we have done, may we attain spiritual liberation, especially string winning in this life itself. In this moment of peace, let us send out our loving kindness to all our teachers, to all our friends, even enemies, that they all may be well and happy, and that we all meet happily together again in time. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu.